true U.S. government. It's a fun, smart way to show young readers how American government works. Michael Burgan here, the author, here to chat all about it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Primaries are taking place currently. We have an election year, so this is a perfect time for kids to get interested in this process.
I think so. I mean, one of the things we talk about in the book is the government's a fact of life all the time, but certainly presidential election years really focuses people's attention on the government and what can happen in the future.
As a parent of a toddler, you're always trying to look for new ways to get them excited about something brand new or introducing them as far as a new subject. Talk a little bit about just, this whole Weird But True series.
Yeah, I think the books, this is the third one I've done in the series, and I think the books are a good balance of the good factual information and then those weird, unusual, fun tidbits that kind of brighten up the maybe, more nuts and bolts stuff. And I think National Geographic reinforces that by their visuals. The illustrations are humorous. There's little jokes interspersed with the visuals. They have great photos, and the information is presented in chunks. It's like little boxes in a spread, and you can kind of move around. You don't have to sit and read lines after lines of text. It just makes it an easier way, I think, to approach what can be heavier subjects.
Let's talk a little bit about the White House, the Capitol, and some of those weird but true facts. Because a bowling alley, underground subway. I mean, talk a little bit about what is happening there.
Sure. Yeah. So the White House, obviously it's the home of the president, but it's also an office building. But there's also ways to relax. So there is a bowling alley. There used to be an indoor pool, and I remember that the pool was removed to put in the bowling alley. There's a putting green, a movie theater, a running track. At Camp David, the president's retreat in Maryland, they have very similar things. There's another bowling alley. There's a basketball court. So, with such a high pressure job, they're going to need time to relax and exercise. And so they have those opportunities in those two places. As far as the Capitol, the one thing that people maybe don't know about is that there's a subway system that senators and representatives can use. There's two lines for the Senate, one for the House. And the first one opened in 1909. Obviously, they're not using that one today. It's a little more modernized, but it lets them go from building to building without dealing with the elements or in a safe way. And the Capitol itself, I just was looking through the book and I'd forgotten this, that the dome looks like it's stone the way the rest of the building is. It's painted to look like the rest of the building. And the dome is actually made of cast iron and it weighs 4,500 tons. So it's a big structure.
That is amazing. And let's talk a little bit about presidents, because I know, like, for me growing up, when I heard about Abraham Lincoln and his ties to Illinois, I was like, oh my goodness, a president could be from our state. And that was like the catalyst to get me to learn about it. What was it for you growing up or writing these books as far as like, oh, wow, I'm interested in the subject?
Well, I think with presidents, it's getting into maybe more of their personal habits in life, things that maybe don't get coverage in the press, maybe things they don't even want people to know. I mean, I didn't know this, that one of Richard Nixon's favorite foods was cottage cheese with ketchup, which is really weird, and I don't think something that maybe he wanted people to know. Theodore Roosevelt and his family kept an assortment of animals that I don't think you would see today. I mean, at different times it included guinea pigs and lizards, a badger, a pony, and even a small bear. So they had quite the little zoo at the White House. So that was kind of interesting. And Calvin Coolidge, who I think most people think of as being this somber, Silent Cal was his nickname. He was not a fun guy, but he used to like to play pranks with his staff. So he would push all the buttons on the intercom system they had at the time and then hide in his office. So when they came to look for him, they couldn't find him. So it's little tidbits like that I think make him more human.
That almost sounds like the plot of a movie. Oftentimes, as parents, you remember these things growing up, and then they kind of like fall out of your like memory. And then you're teaching your kids about certain subject. You're like, I think I remember this. I remember how many branches and how many people are here and what they're doing. But this is also not only a great thing for kids, but also for parents to get involved in too, because you need a little brush up on this information as well, and it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and there's a quiz at the back of the book that it's based on the tests they give people who are going to become U.S. citizens, but also all the answers are somewhere in the book. And I was thinking like, oh, I should ask some of the people I talk to if they can answer the questions. They're multiple choice for the kids, but just ask them like, oh, do you know how many people there are in the Senate or the Congress, or do you know, how just different facets of government. It's like that. Yes, you learn as a kid, but then it just goes out of your head.
What is maybe the earliest fact or one of the earliest ones, because obviously there's a lot of modern things in government that we get to learn about as far as presidents and some of the newer buildings, but what's maybe some of the older ones that like when we're going back and I don't know if we go back to George Washington time, but maybe something from what's the earliest kind of memory from the book.
Hmm. Well, I know, speaking of Abe Lincoln, that he did not like to be called Abe. And supposedly even Mrs. Lincoln called him Mr. Lincoln. So that was one of his little quirks of personality. And they're going to the Constitution. There's been only 27 amendments that have been passed in the 200 and something years, which isn't a lot, but over 11,000 have been proposed. And one of them from the 19th century was to rename the country the United States of Earth, because this member of Congress was convinced that at some point the United States would control all of Earth. So he was going to try to get ahead of that and change the name of the country. So, I mean, think that's something you never would find in a textbook. It's kind of fun to discover stuff like that.
I have a feeling someone in office, probably in the future is probably going to try to do that again at some point,
That could be.
Wonderful. Michael, thank you so much for your time today. Weird but True U.S. Government in stores now. It's a perfect thing. A lot of kids are on spring break. If you're in the car, it's a great way to, pass the time and learn a couple of facts, quiz the parents, quiz the kids, and
Yes.
something as far as, summer learning as well, too. So definitely pick up this book, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.